Good day everyone, this is Group 8 and for today's topic, we will be presenting the module for strategy execution. The strategic management process does not end with deciding which strategies to pursue. Instead, strategic thought must be translated into action. This presentation focuses on the management, operations, and human resources issues which are crucial for a successful strategy implementation. Specifically, this covers topics on transitioning from formulating to implementing strategies, the need for having clear annual objectives and policies, conflict in allocating and managing resources, the linkage between strategy and organizational structure, types of organizational structure, the do's and don'ts in developing organizational charts, and again, the issues on strategic operation and human resources. Before we proceed to the main discussion, allow me to introduce to you the module presenters, namely Christine Cartojano, Liza Lalio, Alfredo Lantaco, and Shara Ontuca. It is always more difficult to do something than to say you are going to do it. This statement demonstrates how, despite their close connections, strategy formulation and strategy implementation are significantly different, mainly in terms of the areas of responsibility that fall under the purview of the divisional and functional levels of management from the perspective of the strategist. The two key stages of the strategic management process are the formulation and implementation of strategies, whereas strategy formulation focuses on creating and designing strategies as well as selecting the best one to implement in order to achieve the intended organizational goals and objectives. Strategy implementation deals with actually putting the chosen strategy into practice. In here, we can see how responsibilities are shifting from strategy formulation to strategy implementation. The fine line or transitional phase between them is where problems can arise even with expertly crafted strategies. One significant reason for this is when the strategy formulation phase was not inclusive for the managers and employees, which further resulted in them having competing interests with those of the organization. Inability to replicate the same energy from strategy formulation to strategy implementation is another factor contributing to implementation failures. This usually happens when we plan far too much but we never get to the execution part. A strong strategy sets out a framework for organizations to follow in order to attain their goals. However, leaders frequently place an excessive focus solely on defining strategy, which leads to implementation failure. When performing with strategy implementation, the organization needs to ensure that several important objectives are met, beginning with achieving annual objectives. These are desired milestones an organization needs to achieve to ensure successful strategy implementation. Annual objectives are essential for strategy implementation because they represent the basis for allocating resources. They are a primary mechanism for evaluating managers. They enable effective monitoring for progress toward achieving long-term objectives. They establish organizational, divisional, and departmental priorities, and they are essential for keeping a strategic plan on track. Clearly stated and communicated objectives are critical to success in all types and sizes of organizations. Thus, annual objectives are often stated in terms of profitability, growth, and market share by business segment, geographical area, customer groups, and product. Now, let us examine the Stamos Company's hierarchy of aims. Basically, this illustrates how a hierarchy of annual objectives can be established based on organizational structure. Looking closely, objectives should exhibit consistency across hierarchical levels and form a network of supportive aims. This means basically that horizontal consistency of objectives is as important as vertical consistency of objectives. In order for the Stamos Company to convert visions into clear-cut measurable targets, they are very clear as to what they are expected to achieve and when. This is to say that the firm considered the characteristics of objectives in crafting their annual objectives. These are the characteristics of being measurable, consistent, reasonable, challenging, clear, communicated throughout the organization, characterized by an appropriate time dimension and accompanied by a commensurate rewards and sanctions. It is also important to note that annual objectives should state quantity, quality, cost, and time, and also be verifiable.
The need for clear policies. Clear policies are needed for a strategy to succeed. Policies refer to specific guidelines, methods, procedures, rules, forms, and administrative practices established to support and encourage work toward stated goals. Policies are essential instruments for strategy implementation for at least six reasons. The first one, policies set boundaries, constraints, and limits on the kinds of administrative actions that can be taken to reward and sanction behavior. Second, policies let both employees and managers know what is expected of them, thereby increasing the likelihood that strategies will be implemented successfully. Third, policies provide a basis for management control and allow coordination across organizational units. Fourth, policies reduce the amount of time managers spend making decisions. Policies also clarify what work is to be done and by whom. Policies promote delegation of decision making to appropriate managerial levels where various problems usually arise. And sixth one, the last one, policies clarify what can and cannot be done in pursuit of an organization's objectives. Policies help to solve recurring issues and guide strategy implementation, and they are the means by which strategic choices are carried out. Many companies maintain a policy manual to guide and direct behavior. All divisions and departments may be subject to policies, while some policies only apply to one department. Policies, in whatever scope and form they take, serve as a tool for executing plans and achieving goals. When possible, policies should be established in writing. Allocate resources and manage conflict. Allocating resources is a critical step in strategy implementation. Strategic management itself is sometimes referred to as a resource allocation process. Every company has at least four different types of resources or assets that may be employed to fulfill its goals and objectives: financial resources, physical resources, human resources, and technological resources. Resource allocation can be defined as distributing an organization's assets across products, regions, and segments according to priorities established by annual objectives. Strategies should be wary of a number of factors that commonly prohibit effective resource allocation, including an overprotection of resources, too great emphasis on short-run financial criteria, organizational politics, vague strategy targets, a reluctance to take risks, and a lack of sufficient knowledge. However, effective resource allocation does not ensure effective strategy implementation, since programs, staff, controls, and commitment are required to bring the resources to life. The process of strategy implementation can inevitably lead to conflict because of honest differences of opinion, turf protection, and competition for limited resources. Conflict can be defined as a disagreement between two or more parties on one or more issues. Establishing objectives can create conflict because managers and strategists must make trade-offs. Trade-offs are necessary because no firm has sufficient resources to pursue all strategies that would benefit the firm. Some important management trade-off decisions required in strategy implementation include: to emphasize short-term profits or long-term growth, to emphasize profit margin or market share, to emphasize market penetration or market development, to seek growth or stability, to take high risk or low risk, to be more socially responsible or more profitable. Conflict is not necessarily bad. The absence of it in an organization might indicate indifference or apathy. But for strategy implementation to be successful, conflict must be managed. Managing conflict is a strategic issue in most, if not all, organizations. Various approaches for managing and resolving conflict can be classified into three categories. The first one is avoidance. Avoidance includes such actions as ignoring the problem in hopes that the conflict will resolve itself or physically separating conflicting individuals or groups. The second one is diffusion. Diffusion can include playing down differences between conflicting parties while accentuating similarities and common interests. Compromising so that there is neither a clear winner nor loser, resorting to majority rule, appealing to a higher authority, or redesigning present positions. And the last approach is confrontation. Confrontation is exemplified by exchanging members of conflicting parties so that each can gain an appreciation of the other's point of view, or holding a meeting at which conflicting parties present their views and work through their differences. Alfred Chandler promoted the notion that changes in strategy lead to changes in organizational structure. Changes in strategy often requires changes in the way an organization is structured for two major reasons. The first reason is that structure largely dictates how objectives and policies will be established. Objectives and policies set under a geographic organizational structure, for example, are couched in geographic terms. And the second major reason is that structure dictates how resources will be allocated. If an organization structure is built on customer groups, resources will be distributed accordingly. Similarly, if an organization structure is organized along functional business lines, resources are distributed according to functional areas. When a company's strategy changes, the existing organizational structure may become ineffective, and so structure should be designed to aid a firm's strategic pursuit and therefore follow strategy. There is no single best organizational design or structure for each particular strategy or organization type. It is also crucial to emphasize that while changes in structure might help with strategy execution, they should not be expected to make a poor strategy good, bad management good, or bad product sell.
Organizational structure is the backbone of any company's operating procedures and workflows. It determines the place and role of each employee in the business and is key to organizational development. A clear structure allows every team member to be involved. There are seven basic types of organizational structure, and let us get to know each of them. The first type of organizational structure is the functional structure. It groups tasks and activities by business function, such as production and operations, marketing, finance and accounting, research and development, and management information systems. It also promotes specialization of labor, encourages efficient use of managerial and technical talent, minimizes the need for an elaborate control system, and allows rapid decision making. A university may structure its activities by significant functions, including academic affairs, student services, alumni relations, athletics, maintenance, and accounting. A functional structure often leads to short term and narrow thinking that may undermine what is best for the firm. This is an example of functional structure. Some disadvantages of a functional structure are that it forces accountability to the top, minimizes career development opportunities, and is sometimes characterized by low employee morale, line or staff conflicts, a poor delegation of authority, and inadequate planning for products and markets. That is why most large companies have abandoned the functional structure in favor of decentralization and improved accountability. The divisional structure is the second most common type of organizational structure. Divisions are sometimes called segments, profit centers, or business units. As a small organization grows, it has more difficulty managing different products and services in different markets. Some forms of divisional structure generally become necessary to motivate employees, control operations, and compete successfully in diverse locations. The divisional structure can be organized in one of four ways: 1. By geographic area, 2. Product or services, 3. By the customer, or 4. By the process. With the divisional structure, functional activities are performed centrally and in each separate division. The divisional structure of Crocs Incorporated shows its CEO and the division heads, including the Chief Legal and Administrative Officer, CFO, COO, CPO, and CSO. Divisional structure by geographic area. This type of structure is appropriate for organizations whose strategies need to be tailored to fit customers' particular needs and characteristics in different geographic areas. This type of structure is most appropriate for organizations with similar branch facilities located in widely dispersed areas. Divisional structure by product or services. This structure is the most effective for implementing strategies when specific products or services need particular emphasis. Also, this structure is widely used when an organization offers only a few products or services, or when an organization's products or services differ substantially. The divisional structure allows strict control over and attention to product lines, but it may also require a more skilled management force and reduced top management control. Divisional structure by customer. This structure allows an organization to cater effectively to the requirements of clearly defined customer groups. For example, book publishing companies often organize their activities around customer groups such as colleges, secondary schools, and private commercial schools. Next is the divisional structure by process. The divisional structure by process can be particularly effective in achieving objectives when distinct production processes represent the thrust of competitiveness in the industry. It is similar to a functional structure because activities are organized according to how work is performed. However, a critical difference between these two designs is that functional departments are not accountable for profits or revenues, whereas divisional process departments are evaluated on this criteria. We now move to a strategic business unit or SBU structure. This type of structure in multi-divisional organizations can greatly facilitate strategy implementation efforts. The strategic business unit structure groups similar divisions into SBUs and delegates authority and responsibility for each unit to a senior executive who reports directly to the CEO. This change in structure can facilitate strategy implementation by improving coordination between similar divisions and channeling accountability to distinct business units. ConArgra's SBU structure is shown here. Two disadvantages of an SBU structure are that it requires an additional layer of management, which increases salary expenses. However, these limitations often do not outweigh the advantages of improved coordination and accountability. One advantage of the SBU structure is that it makes planning and controlling tasks by the corporate office more manageable. The last type of an organizational structure is the matrix structure. It is the most complex of all designs because it depends on vertical and horizontal flows of authority and communication, hence the term matrix. A matrix structure can result in higher overhead because it creates more management positions. Despite its complexity, the matrix structure is widely used in many industries including construction, healthcare, research, and defense. Shown here is a matrix structure. Organizations need a participative planning, training, a clear mutual understanding of roles and responsibilities, excellent internal communication, and mutual trust and confidence for a matrix structure to be effective. This section provides some basic guidelines for this endeavor. There are some basic do's and don'ts concerning devising or constructing organizational charts, especially for mid-sized to large firms. First and foremost, reserve the title CEO for the top executive of the firm. Do not just use the title President for the top person. Use it for division top managers if there are divisions within the firm. Refrain from using the title President for functional business executives. They should have the title Chief, Vice President, Manager or Officer, such as Chief Information Officer or VP of Human Resources. Next reminder, do not recommend a dual title like the CEO and President for just one executive. Do not let a single individual be both chairman of the board and CEO of the company. Do not have the CFO, CIO, CSO, Human Resource Officer, or other functional positions report to the COO. All these positions report directly to the CEO. Always remember, in developing an organizational chart, to only have a particular person reporting to one person in the chain of command. This would violate the unity of command principle of management that every employee should have just one boss.
So let's proceed to strategic production and operations issues. The organization's ability to achieve its objectives can be greatly enhanced or hindered by its production and operations capabilities, restrictions, and regulations. The production occasions are where the majority of the strategy implementations take place. The success or failure of strategy implementation efforts can be affected by strategic production-related decisions regarding plant size, plant location, product design, choice of equipment, type of tooling, inventory control, quality control, cost control, use of standards, job specialization, employee training, equipment and resource utilization, shipping and packaging, and technological innovation. However, operational and manufacturing issues are to blame for plant execution failures. The following are the most pressing problems in operations and production. First, restructuring and re-engineering are challenges that are becoming more widespread in all organizations. Restructuring entails reducing the organizational size in terms of manpower, divisions, and units, as well as the hierarchical level in organizational structures. Its goal is to increase efficiency and effectiveness while decreasing cost. Is more concerned with shareholder well-being than employee well-being. Re-engineering, as contrasted with restructuring, is focused on employee and customer well-being rather than shareholder well-being. It entails redesigning work, tasks, and processes in order to improve cost, quality, service, and speed. Its primary goal is to change the way work is done. Re-engineering is defined by multiple tactical, short-term, business function-specific decisions, whereas restructuring is characterized by strategic, long-term, affecting all business functions decisions. Next, managing resistance to change. Change is constant, and it's the biggest threat to every business. In order for plan execution to be successful, an organization must adapt to these changes. Organizations that resist change may experience inconvenience, economic loss, uncertainty, and strategy execution failure. The following are the types in implementing changes, and it occur at any level or stage of strategy implementation. The forced change strategy entails issuing and implementing instructions. This technique has the advantage of being quick, but it suffers from low commitment and high resistance. Next, educative change technique, which gives facts and persuades individuals of the need for change. But slow and difficult execution is one of its disadvantages. Next, the rational or self-interest change strategy aims to persuade people that the change will benefit them personally. To be competitive, organizations must constantly adapt to these changes. Managers must foresee and facilitate change to be able to make strategy execution successful. Next, deciding where or how to produce goods. It is difficult to implement a strategy when an organization does not have plans for how and where items should be produced. Due to several considerations such as the availability of significant resources, labor rates in the area, transportation, and other product-related expenses, the location of the production facilities poses a barrier for strategy execution. Last, managing an employee stock ownership plans or ESOP. An employee benefit plans that aids in the reduction of worker alienation and the stimulation of productivity. If this cannot be managed well, it affects production and operations as manpower declines. And let's proceed to strategic human resource issues. Any organization is only as good as its people, so human resource issues can make or break successful strategy implementation. And these are the following human resource issues. First, linking performance and pay to strategy. An organization's compensation structure must be connected with its strategic goals. There should be encouragement to attain goals such as salary increases, promotions, merit pay, and bonuses. Gain sharing is also a method of motivating employees to work harder since they will get incentives if their performance objectives are exceeded. A bonus system based on successful sales, profit, production efficiency, quality, and safety results can be a valuable instrument to encourage strategy implementation efforts. Without this linking of performance and pay to strategy, people are unmotivated and do not have a drive to achieve the objectives of the organization. Next, balancing work life with home life. A good home life greatly contributes to a good work life. Organizations' competitive advantage increasingly includes work and family strategies. They created family days to boost employees' pride in working for the company. Flexible working hours are required to balance work and home life. Unbalanced work and family life leads to inflexible employees who may struggle to accomplish and execute the necessary strategies. Next, developing a diverse workforce. An organization can be most effective when its workforce mirrors the diversity of its customers. There are 6 benefits of having a diverse workforce, and these are the following. Women and minorities have different insights, opinion, and perspective that should be considered. A diverse workforce portrays a firm committed to non-discrimination. A workforce that mirrors a customer base can help attract customers, build customer loyalty, and design, offer, or product services that meet customer needs and wants. A diverse workforce helps protect the firm against discrimination lawsuits. Women and minorities represent a huge additional pool of qualified applicants. And last, a diverse workforce strengthens a firm's social responsibility and ethical position. Next, using caution in hiring arrival employees. Hiring someone from a competitor business should be approached with caution since it may end up in lawsuit. If these individuals had access to the competitor's firm's secret sauce, client list, programming algorithm, or other private or sensitive information, they must be avoided. Such conduct is harmful to both ethics and the business. Next, creating a strategy-supportive culture. Strategies should work to conserve, highlight, and expand on parts of a current culture that support suggested new strategies. Aspects of a current culture that are inconsistent with the proposed approach should be identified and changed. It is typically more successful to change a firm's culture to match a new strategy than to change a strategy to fit an existing culture. Recruitment, training, transfer, promotion, restructuring of an organization's design, role modeling, positive reinforcement, and mentorship are all methods for altering an organization's culture. Next, using caution in monitoring employees' social media. Many firms use social media to track the actions of the current and potential employees. This is an issue since it may intrude on each individual's privacy. Disgruntled employees venting on social media may harm the company's reputation, and social media data can be subpoenaed and used as evidence against the organization. Overall, organizations should monitor employee and potential employee social media activity whenever they have reason to suspect the individual is engaging in unlawful or unethical behavior. But excessively investigating every employee and job candidate's social media activities may be harmful. The basic line is that employers have the legal right to monitor the employee's behavior, but only if there is a legal obligation to do so. Lastly, developing a corporate wellness program. Companies want to have a healthy workforce. As a result, they provided health insurance to its employees in order to ensure their well-being. Corporate wellness program benefit not only employees but also the organization as a whole.
In conclusion, good strategy formulation does not imply successful strategy implementation. Although they are closely connected, strategy formulation and strategy implementation are distinct. Moreover, it is widely agreed that the real work begins after strategies are formulated. Motivated managers and staff, as well as discipline and hard effort, are required for successful strategy implementation. Thank you, and that would be all for Module 8 Strategy Execution.